All right, we had some errors getting started tonight, but it looks like we are now live. All right, welcome to the channel, everyone. I am the Mad Computer Scientist. I did intend to start this about an hour ago, but it was delayed due to an unfortunate case of laundry. I did get an interesting warning on my cell phone today. It's the second time I've seen that, and it's a warning about cold air funnels, which apparently is a type of air funnel similar to a tornado, but does not touch down and is usually much less severe. It sounds like the sort of thing that would be associated with squall lines and possibly a type of quasi-linear convective system. I hope I have that meteorology term right because I am not a meteorologist, like a derecho. And I'm going to check to make sure we have everything running correctly. Just a second here, and we're going to get that done. All I need to do is first off view this on YouTube and see if I can hear my voice, which I hope I can, and I'm going to talk through it anyway. And can I hear my voice? Might help better if I were playing. Do is first off view this on. All right, looks like we can. Now I'm going to have to go through my earphones here. All right, that should be a little bit better. Let's forward this to the end. And while we're doing that, let's actually share our video for a second to make sure we have the sound like we should. Now, apparently, Firefox has changed, or rather, StreamYard has changed its Firefox interface to make it the same as the YouTube interface, so I shouldn't have as many problems with it as I've had before. All right, in this case, we do on screen 2. All right, do we share sound? Going to allow. We want to full screen. And now let's see if we can hear it. And we're going to find out in just a second here. And I'm sharing the wrong screen. Well, we're going to have to fix that one. And we're going to need to actually turn that down. So let's stop sharing our screen and see if we can grab the right screen instead, because apparently it was not the screen I thought it was. All right, that's the right screen. What? Okay, that is interesting. It's been a while since I've done something like that. I would love to say it was the first time, but it is almost certainly not. And we need to turn the volume up. That is not helping whatsoever. Why is it so quiet? Okay. We need to. All right. Well, it seems to be workable now, which is not exactly what I want, but it'll have to do. All right. So now that we've gotten all of that done, welcome to my channel. Sorry it took so long tonight. Athena says hello, by the way. She wants me to give her pets, so I'm giving her pets now. And this is a channel I found earlier. And what is the channel? Let's take a look for a second. Called Blackwoods. Now, I am the Mad Computer Scientist. On this channel, I discuss math, computer science, and technology topics that are of interest to me. On Friday nights, I like to do something a little bit more different. let my hair down a bit and have a little fun in the process of doing it. And I try to point out videos that have what I think are logical flaws. And if anyone wants to point out my logical flaws, please do so, because I am just as prone to them as everyone else. And maybe have a little snarky fun along the way. So, this is yet another Bible prophecy channel where someone is going to try to convince you that Bible prophecies are coming true. Now, as I am saying this, we actually do have attacks going on in Israel, led by Iran. And of course, we all know Israel has essentially been committing what some people have described as a genocide against Palestine. But we are not going to get into that tonight. There are plenty of other websites covering that, along with news sources. We're going to cover some bad prophecies, including one that I debunked fairly quickly. And no, they are not currently testing these things out. They've already figured out what it was. And my first thought it was that it was a cyanobacteria and a phenomenon known as red tide. Now, I don't know where this river is, but it turns out that I was wrong. And of course, this person insisting that it's Bible prophecy is even more wrong, because it was an organic dye spill from a plant up the river. So we already know that this wasn't anything supernatural in origin. And you're going to say that just because something in the Bible says rivers will turn red, and the phenomenon of cyanobacteria was, well, causing red tides, was well known in the ancient world as well. So basically, what we have here is confirmation bias. And of course, this was an organic dye, so you can imagine how poisonous most organic dyes are. Of course, we all know that just because something is organic doesn't mean it can't be poisonous. One third of the water is going to be poisoned simply because a chemical factory spilled a dye. Yeah, no. Yes, a lot of people might have been saying that because a lot of people will look to have their own biases confirmed. Like, I think you probably have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm going to assume, based on my confirmation bias, that you don't understand what you're talking about and are going to attribute to something completely silly just because you want people to believe like you do. And I'm not sure I'd call that one. Okay, that's actually the closest to human blood. But the last one wasn't so much human blood as it was bright red. Ooh, I love the scary music that you make me think this is somehow a sign of the end of the world. So it's rust combined with algae. Would you like to try something that is actually impressive? The problem is, with the exception of the industrial accidents, the algae and iron oxide turning water red was a phenomenon that was well known in ancient times as well. Sorry, but it's unimpressive. These are not specific prophecies. How about trying something better? Are you going to get to that? You might. I don't know because I haven't watched through this yet. Even if you combine the volume of all of these bodies of water, one third of the bodies of water have not turned red and become undrinkable. You're really stretching on this one, so tone it down. And you know how you can have a revelation just as convincing as anything in the last book of the Protestant Bible? Why don't you try taking mushrooms? Because that's what John did on the island of Patmos. Revelation is a drug inspired rant against Roman rule. And which we now know is going to miss. So, yeah, this really isn't the prophecy you think it is either. It's funny how these prophecy people never revisit their prophecies to see what they've gotten wrong. Only one insane person at a time, please. Also, it's Russia Today, not a well known source of accurate information. Russia Today is known to mix misinformation with real information in order to confuse people. Yes, and the one in Argentina was an organic dye spill. Instead of assuming that just because the same explanation doesn't work for a different event, meaning people are wrong, why don't you assume you need to do a little more research? For heaven's sakes, I need to do more research on this, but you guys are totally, totally unconvincing. Oh, for heaven's sake. Really? Guys, I don't even know if this is a real video at this point. Because I don't know anyone who's claiming they're hearing sounds coming from the heavens that sounds like a trumpet, unless they happen to live next door to I don't know, maybe a bar that has a jazz band. Oh my gosh, you're hearing owls at night? I can't believe you're hearing owls at night. That means the end of the world must be upon us. Or it could be someone just making stuff up. Right, because you are the only one hearing a trumpet. That means you must be the only one that gave yourself to Christ. Guy, I hate to break it to you, but the rapture is a 19th century invention and is not found anywhere in Christianity until then. Oh, for heaven's sake. All the rivers are not turning blood red. I guarantee you the north branch of the Susquehanna is probably as brown as it ever was, and the west branch is probably as clear as it ever was, although you may see some interesting colors around 3 Mile Island. Actually, it looks more like Kool-Aid to me, but whatever you feel is blood must be blood to you. May I point out this is still not 1/3 of the world's water? Give it up, guy. Because it looks more like cherry flavored Kool-Aid. And that doesn't even look red. Now, admittedly, that could just be the way that the light hits it, but that looks more like a brownish color, which is common when you see rust. Tone down the excitement, guy. You haven't been right yet. And instead of discussing crazy things like blood moons, which are also a well known phenomenon that have occurred since ancient times, Huh, why don't you all do me a favor and hit the like, comment, and subscribe options on the video? Oh my gosh, the moon is resting? Well, that's probably because there's oxygen and iron on the moon. Wait, you mean a heat signature, which means it's an infrared image? Now, if I had time to track this down, I'm willing to bet rusting is kind of a metaphorical thing because you actually didn't read it, did you? And you're just assuming that it's supporting your particular viewpoint because you want it to be true. Again, you have confirmation bias. And let's take a look at what it says on the screen. A new paper in Science Advances, so reviews data from the Indian Space Research Organization, which just, I'm not going to pronounce that name, which discovered water, ice, and mapped out a variety of minerals while surveying the moon's surface in 2008. Lead author Xiao Li of the University of Hawaii has studied that water extensively, and data from the probe in question, Moon Mineralogy Mapper Instrument M3, which was built by NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Water interacts with rock to produce a diversity of minerals, and M3 detected spectra, or light reflected surfaces, that revealed Moon's pool had a very different composition than the rest of it, and we don't find out anything more. All right, I am getting tired, and I'm not focusing as much as I should, so I'm probably going to cut this one short tonight. That is not even anything that you could get from what I read. Guy, reading comprehension. Try it. Oh, great. I'm glad we brought an Instagram crackpot. I go for all my reliable science information on Instagram, don't you? And we all know the moon is teeming with biological life. That's exactly why it has an atmosphere, right? Okay, we have pictures of the moon that appear to look brownish. You're not making your point. And that's not even taken from the moon, the picture you're showing there. That is an atmospheric phenomenon that has happened multiple times throughout the year. If the moon comes out during a hazy background, it will turn out to be that color until it rises high enough into the atmosphere. Nope, you haven't got it right yet. Why would they be terrified? Maybe the ones that believe this stuff, which is a relatively small number, might be terrified. But the fact that the moon has oxygen and iron and therefore has rusts really wouldn't surprise anyone. I also believe you're highly misrepresenting this because I haven't had time to track it down like I did with this story about the river in Argentina. No, John said that. Please learn the difference between God and a human author. This is going to be important for you in the future. Well, Jester, I think the world might be ending for other reasons right now, but it won't be anything this guy's saying. Which by now has all turned back. Except possibly the thing in Antarctica. Or it's going to prove that you don't know what you're talking about, you're way too excited, and you're jumping the gun. Yeah, there's not much I can do about that. Apparently, I have to do this in Chrome, and you mean a river in a desert will dry up? I'm sorry, but this is unimpressive. Again, it's a river in a desert. I don't know how often this occurs. It could also be climate change. Again, I have a feeling a couple minutes on Google would debunk you because you don't know what you're talking about. You can't attribute everything to Bible prophecy. We've already shown like two of the things were just chemical spills. You know another thing rivers often do? Flood. I don't know if you've realized this, but countries like the United States would be a lot better right now if the rapture did occur. Um, I've probably read more scriptures than you, but then again, you didn't have as many books as I did. Wasn't this the plot of the movie Hercules? Or at least a major plot point in that movie. Or at least something very similar to it. Alright, so let's take a few seconds out to remind everyone watching this, possibly on the replay, that I would appreciate if you would hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell. Just use the pull down menu to get and go down to all to get all of the latest updates. And finally, comment down below. No, it really doesn't. Oh my gosh! A newer book based on an older book says the same thing that the older book does. How impressive! I don't know, possibly genetics? But I'm also guessing this was supposed to be metaphorical and not an actual thing. Because honestly, one thing I found with a lot of people like this is they don't really understand metaphor because they take things too literally. I'm not even sure they do sacrifices like that anymore in Judaism, but I'm not Jewish, so someone who knows more than I do, please comment down below. They're doing more than trying to take over Gaza, they're trying to eliminate the people who live there. I don't think it has anything to do with the third temple. Of course, it's this thing I say it is, and not this other thing that actually everyone else thinks it is because some ancient book says it has to be this thing because I want the end of the world to come about now. Oh, for heaven's sake. I can't even believe you can be a Christian and be this bad at understanding what Jewish beliefs are. At least not in the modern era. For heaven's sakes, even ancient Christians knew the one key difference between them and their Jewish predecessors is that the Jewish people did not accept a Messiah that had already came. So you need to correct this when you get around to it and say that the Messiah will come, not that he'll come back once again. Oh my gosh, a fish is somehow going to bring about the end of the world. Well, I think he may be onto something here because I do understand that there was one book that said that there was a group of dolphins who were aware of the end of the world. And before they left a message to us that said, "So long and thanks for all the fish." Well, obviously it's Godzilla. Oh, TikTok, another great and reliable source of information you've got there. I actually think that is true, but most fish have adaptations if they actually go up and down to deal with it a little bit better than humans do. I already told you it's Godzilla. In all honesty, I think a leviathan was probably just a whale. We've been down there a couple of times actually. Not very often, we don't stay very long, but we've been down there. This isn't all that unusual. Listen, if you want someone to tell you how it's normal, you don't go around to other religious apologists trying to justify Bible prophecies, and you certainly don't ask someone who studies computer science. They have these people called ichthyologists and marine biologists who study this sort of thing. Maybe you should try asking one of those. Oh my gosh, you're criticizing other people for their sound effects? Mister, I put scary music on the blood red rivers that were just chemical dyes? Wait, what? All right, well, thank you for showing us your pareidolia, but honestly, I don't think this is anything like a leviathan. I think it's just some ridges underneath the water, or perhaps maybe a stylized representation on a map of ridges underneath the water. Maybe because it is just a bunch of rocks and mountains? Have you considered that? Oh, you're a flat earther. Okay. Didn't know that. Could you just start with that next time so I can automatically dismiss what you're saying? Okay, you don't dismiss someone just because they're a flat earther. That would be a genetic fallacy. But in this case, he's just wrong because you can go to Antarctica at any time you like. There are literally cruises that'll take you to Antarctica. You can even go to the South Pole and book an expedition if you want. And of course, this was filmed after what was known as the final experiment, when flat earthers literally went to Antarctica and witnessed a 24-hour sun. So you're going to need to give up everything you've said tonight, guy. They've blocked it out of Google Maps or Google Earth. Have you considered that the reason that it's not in Google Maps and Google Earth is because it's a remote wasteland where very few people live and no one lives permanently? What, do you expect the penguins to map Antarctica for you? Or it could simply be mountains that are showing underneath the water or islands chains. I mean, to be fair, Godzilla vs. Kong, The New Empire was fun, but I don't base my science on that movie either. So you might as well just say all of these things are signs that Mothra is going to come and save us all. No, most of the things the non believers are terrified of, if you want to put it that way, are things that are real and not the seven trumpets. There are a lot of scary things going on right now that have nothing to do with your insane conspiracy theory beliefs. Again, that's not one third of the Earth. The wildfires have been put out mostly, although I do believe one of the issues with the Trump's deployment of the National Guard is that they're calling resources away from areas of California where they need forest firefighters. It's not an American thing, it's just something that happens in this area every year. It's dry scrubland mostly. Fires get started naturally, and it's part of a natural cycle. The fires are necessary to renew the forest in many cases. Fires happen all around the world, everywhere. And again, you're just going for, hey, this kind of fits what I think, so this means this thing must be happening. It's a vague prophecy that's designed to get people like you to believe stuff that isn't necessarily true. Unimpressive yet again because we know farmers regularly burn these forests down to the planet's detriment because one, The tropical rainforests in Brazil do not have rich soils and are not good for growing crops, and two, occasionally they will get out of control. So please start thinking and applying some basic thought to this. No, nope, you haven't proven your case. All you've shown is that you want to make vague connections that say, hey, I think these things might be connected to these Bible prophecies. But most of the prophecies, again, are really vague that could apply to almost any time. You're gonna have to come up with something better, guy. Well, it's a good thing like the Marquette and Bessemer and the Edmund Fitzgerald are already sank at the bottom of the Great Lakes. All right, so I think I've had enough of this guy for tonight. I can't stand his excitement over the end of the world. This is supposed to be a depressing guy. You don't need to take joy in the fact that people are going to die just because you think the end of the world is near. You also need to spend more time recognizing confirmation bias and stop assuming that everything you see confirms what you want to see. Now, this isn't just you, this is a human frailty that we all suffer from. Take some time out, spend some time going over biases and logical fallacies, and you won't fall for this. And also, really, you're a flat earther. Learn some basic science to understand that things like time zones do not work on a flat earth. All right, thanks for joining me tonight. I'm sorry I didn't get this starts sooner. I'm sorry I went a little too quickly because I wanted to get this done. But please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share these videos out, and hopefully I will return soon with a video about the Atari 2600 game that beat ChatGPT at chess that everyone is really overblowing, thinking that ChatGPT is really bad because it wasn't designed to beat a game designed to play chess well. Have a good night, everyone, and go out and write some code.